The absolute theory of time says that time is a substance. But you might ask, well, what kind of substance is it? Like, what are its properties? What are its features? What are its aspects? So, in the Eastern religions, like Jainism, and then there's a school of thought within Hinduism called the Nyaya Vaisheshika schools. Uh, so they all affirm this absolute theory, and they say time is an eternal and uncaused substance. So it's eternal. It's all say, doesn't have a cause for its existence, and it's responsible for the existence of things in the present, but it's also responsible for change and movement. So this is a very old account and a medieval account of the absolute theory of time. Let's look at a contemporary account of this. This is a contemporary philosopher named Marcello Oreste Fiocco. So here's what Fiocco does. So Fiocco, he, like pretty much everyone else who affirms the absolute theory, he makes a distinction between time and moments of time. And so he gives this definition. He says time is a natured entity. So it's substance, this thing with properties. And it has three different roles that it does, three different things that it does. It makes change possible. It's the source of moments. And it's the thing that unifies a successive series of moments into what we sometimes call like a timeline. So that's what time is and what time does. But what are these moments? What are these things that it's producing? Well, a moment of time is the way things are, but could be subsequently otherwise. So if God pressed pause on the universe, well, there's a way things are, and they could be subsequently otherwise because God could press play, and and then the next moment would come about. So that's the distinction between time and moments of time. Okay, so with the relational theory, we asked, what were the implications for the nature of God? So let's do the same thing with the absolute theory of time. Like, what are the implications of the absolute theory of time for the nature of God? Some people, they got a lot of critical questions. They're like, hang on, is God really the creator of everything if the absolute theory of time is true? Is really God creator of all? So here's an assumption in the argument. God is said to be the creator of all things apart from himself. You can remember, because like earlier we said, like the concept of God is like God's the single ultimate foundation of reality. So here's an argument someone might give against the absolute theory. So premise one, if God is the creator of all substances apart from himself, well, then God created time. Well, premise two, well, time is an uncreated substance. Like you absolute theorists, that's what you said earlier. We saw that just a few slides ago. Time is an uncreated substance. Ooh, okay. Well, three, if time is an uncreated substance, well, then God does not create time, because you can't create uncreated things. So four, thus, God did not create time. Five, thus, God is not the creator of all substances apart from himself. Ooh, that's bad. That's really bad. We've reached another dead end. It might be game over here for the absolute theorist. Maybe not. Maybe not. So we've got two different people here. So we got Isaac Newton, in the West, and then Raghunatha Shiromani. He's an Indian philosopher. Here's what Shiromani does. So he looks at the argument and he says, if it's premise one he wants to reject. So if God is the creator of all substances apart from himself, then God created time. So he wants to reject that premise. And you might think, well, how do you reject that premise? What does that mean? Well, God is time. This is provocative. It's interesting, So Shiromani thinks this. Isaac Newton, Samuel Clarke, they said like God is time, and you're like, God, what on earth could that possibly mean? But here's what it means. How is God time? Well, let's look at the definition of time on the absolute theory again. Time is a natured entity. Well, God is a natured entity. Okay? And then time has these different roles. God makes change possible because he's omnipotent and he has free will. God is the source of moments. By God simply existing, that's a way things are, but could be subsequently otherwise because God has free will, so he could do something and bring about a second moment. And then time is the thing that unifies a series of moments. Well, God can do that. Whatever theory of providence you want to affirm, some kind of like theological determinism, like Thomism or Calvinism or something. If you want to go Molinist, you want to go with Open theism, like that's the story you're going to tell for how God unifies a series of moments into a coherent timeline. So how is God time? Well, there you go. It just is because God satisfies the definition here. And so what Shiromani does is he says, I don't need a whole bunch of different uncreated substances. I can have one substance that we can properly attribute time to, and that's God. He does the same thing for space and sound and a bunch of other stuff, but we're just looking about time today.